Not too long ago, Marvel revealed that the old Fox X-Men would be returning in Avengers Doomsday. The leading theory is that the film will focus on an incursion between Earth 616 and the X-Men universe, leading into a sort of Avengers vs. X-Men story with Doctor Doom pulling the strings. Don't get me wrong, that'll be really cool to see, but after that, can we please be done with that version of the mutants? The Fox X-Men have never really been my favorite. When I was a kid, I kinda had two choices, X-Men or Spider-Man. And I obviously chose Spider-Man because he's exponentially better. No offense if you're more of an X-Men fan, but like, you're a loser, pal, get your shit together. Anyways, I just never had as much of like a nostalgic connection to the X-Men. The version of the mutants I cared most about were the ones that showed up in the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends TV show. That's not to say that the X-Men aren't great characters though. In fact, they're so great that I believe they need a perfected and revamped adaptation in the soft rebooted MCU post-Secret Wars. Today, I'm going to go over how I would personally handle the X-Men in this new version of the MCU, highlighting some of their arcs, their dynamic, and what story I plan on telling with these characters. Before we get started, I want to thank Drew George, Stephanie Santana, and Player 309 for being the newest subscribers to the channel. From now on, the 3 newest subs by the time the video is being made will get a shout out, and in the case of a narrative video, could get their name incorporated into the story itself. Alright, with the desperate plead for subscribers out of the way, let's get into how I would build the perfect future for the X-Men in the MCU. I've heard a lot of people say that the X-Men and other Marvel mutants are an allegory for racism and oppression, and yeah, that's absolutely true. It's what they were originally created for. But I think it goes even deeper than that. Something I find far more interesting than humanity's fear of mutants is mutants' fear of themselves. I would have X-Men be the first film in the post-Secret Wars MCU, and the first film in the mutant saga overall. And instead of solely focusing on humanity's outlook and disapproval over mutants in this movie, I want the main theme to be how the mutants view and disapprove themselves. With the news of Jake Schreier, the director of Thunderbolts, potentially directing this movie, I think this would work really well considering the themes that were tackled in Thunderbolts. Every X-Men movie has a focal character, and the focal character of this one would be Roberto da Costa, Sunspot. This might be a little similar to X-Men 97, but it worked in that show, and all in all, I really don't care. Roberto would come from a wealthy family, and throughout his life, his parents have always had a prejudice towards mutants. Roberto didn't like them either, but his view on mutants was less out of hatred and more out of fear. He saw what appeared to be these scary monsters on the news, and naturally wanted nothing to do with them. That all changes on the day Roberto finds out he's a mutant. Of course, he's afraid of what his parents in the outside world will think, but above all else, he absolutely hates himself. He feels like he isn't the same person he was before, and that terrifies him. We're then introduced to the X-Men through his eyes. He judges them at first and doesn't want to stay, but throughout the movie, he slowly opens up and realizes that they can help guide him into a place of solace. That would be the primary formula for how I think these MCU X-Men movies should be handled. Introduce a new young mutant as the focal character of the film, and have their internal struggles directly reflect the theme and conflict of the movie. Ultimately, I want this franchise to focus on a young, primarily teenage version of the X-Men. You can still have your older characters, people like Beast, Storm, and of course Charles Xavier would be the professors and seasoned veterans, but we mainly focus on the younger ones. I just think it would be a lot more interesting and open more doors if we frame mutation through the eyes of someone going through puberty. Going into the world on your own for the first time is already scary as is. Having your entire body light on fire one day would only make it scarier. I mean, I don't know for sure since it's never happened to me, but I can only assume that would be the case. One of the main themes of this franchise would be how change is inevitable, but it doesn't define the person you're becoming. The way you respond to that change reflects the person you truly are. Now it's finally time to get into the topic you've all been waiting for, racism. When we look at the X-Men's relation to the outside world, we always talk about the hate they receive, when we should probably be focusing more on how they respond to that hate. Charles Xavier's vision has always been rooted in trying to love a world that doesn't love him back. Magneto tries to force humanity to accept mutants, which only drives them into more fear, whereas Charles attempts to show humanity the love and compassion that they deserve back. This would be the focus of my second movie. In X-Men 2, we bring in Nightcrawler as the focal character. As a devout Catholic, Kurt Wagner lives with Jesus Christ as his anchor, so he's not shy to the topic of loving a world that persecutes you. In this movie, we would kind of pull the opposite of the first one. Instead of the X-Men pulling our focal character through hardships, our focal character would be the one shining light on the truth to the rest of the team. The X-Men would become really cynical in this movie. They're tired of being treated like shit, and some of them are considering leaving to align with the other side of mutants. They argue with Charles, saying he believes in this cause that he's never truly lived through. He's not some blue hairy beast or a man with 8-foot wings growing out of his back. He could easily be seen as just another guy to the rest of the world. But then this guy who looks like a literal demon comes in and shows the team that love isn't transactional, a philosophy rooted in his faith. In the first movie, Roberto is learning to love himself, and in the second movie, Kurt is choosing to love the world around him. The X-Men have always been a team surrounded by the idea of choice, and the theme I think should be incorporated into the MCU's X-Men franchise is the weight of that choice and how much it can really affect. Our third X-Men movie would be an adaptation of Avengers vs. X-Men. There's a lot of directions you can go with Avengers vs. X-Men, so I'm not going to lay out a full story for it because that would require a lot of thinking, and this video isn't meant to go over specific stories and plot elements. Besides, if this were to really happen, no matter what Marvel chose to go with, somebody would be upset. That's actually the main idea of the movie and this segment overall. The X-Men are forced to make a decision, and whatever that decision may be, it has massive repercussions. The goal here is to show how sometimes, no matter what choice you make, someone always seems to get hurt. This is an idea that is super prevalent throughout the X-Men comics, whether it be in the actual Avengers vs. X-Men or the constant debate between Charles and Magneto. There's always a choice the mutants have to make, and there's never a right answer to that choice, only a wrong one. I want to carry this theme throughout the entire mutant saga, which is why I believe Avengers vs. X-Men could be such a strong finale. Scott Summers would be our focal character in this film. As the leader of the X-Men, he's spent his entire life trying to exercise the teachings of Charles Xavier, but this time, there is no peaceful option, and that breaks him. I don't think there should even be a true villain in this movie. Neither side are the bad guys, they're just acting on their own beliefs. This could definitely be the return of that Civil War era where fans are debating and picking sides, and that's the entire point. We're supposed to feel conflicted. And when I say people get hurt no matter what choice is made, I'm not just talking about feelings. No, heroes die, villains die, civilians die, relationships end, the world loses faith, ideologies burn, and it's easy to say you're doing the right thing when you're the one holding the match. It all ties back to the constant debate between Professor X's dream and Magneto's survivalism. The X-Men start to wonder if either of them were truly right. Maybe by the end they quit trying to make a decision. They stop fighting, let things work themselves out, which could lead to even more catastrophe. It all begs the question, what if not choosing is the most dangerous choice of them all? This last part is pretty much just an extended version of what I want to see from Doomsday, but if it isn't touched on as much, I would definitely like to see it become a primary theme for the next saga. We can't just end the X-Men story there though. There has to be a light at the end of the tunnel. And there will be. Like a phoenix, something new and better will come out of the destruction and chaos.
Someday, I wanna lay down like God did on Sunday.
For the past few years, Marvel hasn't been seeing as much success as the Infinity Saga, and while I think a lot of the hate is blown out of proportion, it's pretty clear that things could be a lot better. This soft reboot has the chance to bring magic back to the MCU. Create a world that feels like the comics, let storytellers execute their unique vision and tell a story that actually has something to say, instead of just being set up for future installments. That's what this entire saga should be about. A new era and a new beginning. Show that after every blow the mutants take, every loss, every setback, there will still always be a bright future to hope for.
To make you love me, But everything I try just takes you further.